So today we're going to be joined by the lovely Tara Graff. Tara, the tiny terror Graff, right?
Yes, sir.
And we're going to talk about self-defense, and who better to have kind of talk about that stuff than an authority on self-defense. And there's probably no greater authority than a professional MMA fighter. So Tara, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself, and then I'll tell everybody kind of like why this is going to work. So who's Tara Graff?
Tara Graff is a mother of three. I am an EMT and an MMA fighter. I'm just your simple hometown girl that likes to work hard and push myself to the limits.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think we all kind of like, there's some people that don't like pushing themselves to the limit, right? And those people, you never hear about them. But the people that do push themselves, right? Sometimes they're afraid to do that because other people might judge them, right? They're like, I'm too afraid to fail. Yeah. And so because of that fear, they never start.
That's the hardest thing. Yeah. The fear of the unknown, or the fear of failing. And, if you're going to fail, you're going to fail. It's about getting yourself back up and putting yourself back together and keep moving.
Right.
That's the big thing that people need to realize. It's not if you're going to fail, it's when you're going to fail and what you're going to do about it.
Right.
So,
Steve Harvey has this really cool quote, and maybe you've heard it. And there's a skit on YouTube. And if you haven't, I encourage you to watch it because it's pretty inspiring. But he says, you got to jump. Right. And what he means by that is this, right? You have so many people, and he's kind of a theologian, right? He's kind of religious. So a lot of the messages that he delivers kind of have like that God background in them. Right. But he says, God has given everybody a gift, and it's up to you whether or not you use that gift. And maybe it's not a gift of athleticism or, running, jumping, swimming, playing football, something like that, dancing. Maybe your gift is to make the best pecan pie in the neighborhood, right?
Right.
Something like that. But you'll never know until you jump.
That's right.
Right? Until you jump. You said life, everybody's got bills,
yeah.
Right? Everybody's got struggles. Everybody's got the same stress.
Yes.
But some people decide to walk up to that edge and then just jump.
Go. Yeah.
And he says, at first your parachute's not going to open. Right. And you're going to hit the freaking wall, and you're going to bounce, and you're going to get scuffed up, and you're going to get dirty, and your clothes are going to get all tore up and everything.
Yeah.
But eventually that parachute has no choice but to open. Right. And then there you are, and you're using your gift, but at first you have to jump. Right. So, and that's where a lot of people, they're scared to jump, and they'll have a good life. Nice, bills are paid, cars are paid for, houses paid for, everything's there. But when they sit down at the end of the day, they're like, is this everything?
Yeah.
What else is out there?
Is that what you wanted to do? Like, there's a lot of people, I think, that just settle.
Mm-hmm.
They have these dreams, these goals, these visions in their head, but they're too afraid to live them. They're too afraid to push, or like you said, jump.
Yeah.
Go. Why not?
Just
give it a try.
Just do it.
If you're not gonna do it, you're not gonna do it.
You'll never know unless you do it, right?
Exactly.
And so with that and kind of that philosophy, when did you jump? And have you jumped multiple times in your life, right? Or,
Yes, I would say yes. As far as MMA, that has always intrigued me. Like, I've always loved watching it. I've always loved doing it, Well, let me take that back. Not love doing it, because I didn't do it,
mm-hmm.
Prior to me being 28. I started when I was 28. So later in life, that's when I decided I'm going to jump.
Yeah.
But that's I think it took me growing, and it took me realizing that it's okay to do what you want to do. Yes, I was still, at the time, I was a mother of two, full-time job, trying to make ends meet. But I'm like, you know what? I got to show my kids that if I'm going to tell them to do something, I need to show them, you know? So what better way to follow your dream than to show, to do it and then show your kids,
Right.
That's I don't know. I think that was the biggest part that made me jump the first time. Like, I can't talk about it and then not do it. So
sure. Was it a difficult decision though? So what
No,
was
it wasn't. But the road getting to where I needed to be was very difficult. Very, very early mornings, very, very late nights, and I have to be a full-time mom. I have to work full-time. So, yes.
That's not something you could just turn off, right?
Right. Was it difficult to take that step off that ledge? Yes. I mean, no, I'm sorry. But to continue, yes, it was.
So, oftentimes, right, like when somebody is about to make that jump, right, they always look at, like, what's the consequence of failure? Right? And that's what they weigh themselves against. Like, oh, I don't have the free time, or I'm going to have to sacrifice this shit, from being like a mom or a dad. I'm going to have to take time away from my kids to kind of live my passion. Right. And then their friends tell them, or their mom or dad tells them, man, that's selfish. You need to be spending time with your kids and stuff like that. Right. And I'm not going to ask you, like, who was your biggest detractor, but who was your biggest fan in all of this?
Honestly,
the
kids.
Yeah?
The kids, yeah. Now, there were those late nights where, mom was gone, but they love it.
Yeah.
They absolutely love it.
How old are your kids?
I have almost 13, almost 9, and then my stepdaughter just turned 7. So
okay.
Very, very wide range, fun age.
Well, they're old enough to watch what mom does, though, too.
Yeah.
Right?
They can actually nervous,
they have a presence in it.
They get nervous, but they love it.
That's cool. Well, I have a 17-year-old, a 16-year-old, and a 9-year-old. So my spread is also there. And the distance from the 16-year-old to the 9-year-old was an interesting story, to say the least. And we're not going to get onto it. It's not a PG story, so we'll drop that one off. But yeah, I mean, it's inspiring. I'm not, my story is not so much, unsimilar from yours, but I enlisted in the military at 27. So I was a little bit older as well. Mm-hmm. And I went into kind of a young man's game as an old person.
I hear you.
For the MMA side of it, and I promised I wasn't going to just sit here and talk about MMA for the whole episode, but I'm a fan of MMA. My son trains MMA too. And so I'm kind of always been a presence. I wrestled in high school. My family all wrestles and stuff. So combat sports is kind of it's in the blood, if you will. But one of the things that you're always worried about is kind of taking damage, and that the consequences associated with that. And as you're an EMT, mm-hmm. right? So, I mean, you've seen what head damage looks like.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Oh, yeah. Where did you... what were you like, oh, I'm going to go get punched in the face for a living now. This seems so cool, and I'm just going to be this fighter now, although you've seen what, like, CTE and different stuff like that does.
So, crazy thing, I think that I was going to make it my career. I didn't. I thought I was going to, it was going to be the greatest hobby of mine, and then eventually I did want to go pro, but did I think I was going to be able to just do that? No, I didn't. Because like I said, I was working full time. At the time, I was working at a radiology office, mm-hmm. worked my way all the way up to where I was, managing the facility. Then after the radiology, I went so weird. I went straight over to eyes. So I went to the ophthalmology world.
Is that a normal transition?
No, not at all.
So
not at all.
I'm not in the medical field at all. So I'm like,
not
is that
at
how
all.
that works?
I knew a little bit about, the body, then except for the eyes, and then straight to the eyes.
Okay.
So that was where, I made my money. That's where I made ends meet. Mm-hmm. Didn't think it was going to be a career move until I fell even deeper in love when I kept going, So I just went all the way. I went all the way in.
That's a big jump.
Yeah. And then honestly, when Bellator contacted me, I was like immediately like blown away. Like this is it. Mm-hmm. Like this is awesome. But
so for those of you not MMA kind of fans, which maybe you should check out a couple fights on YouTube or something like that. But Bellator is like the second largest card in the United States, isn't it?
World.
In the world, yeah.
You have UFC, of course, and Bellator, and then ONE is also a big organization too. So
Bellator's up there.
Yeah.
That is a big call.
Yeah. But so back to the question. So yeah, I was like, yes, I want to do this. I want to do this. And then it did, I did think about the consequences of the what ifs. What if, I get really seriously hurt? What if I can't do something? But back to what we were talking about in the beginning, I gotta jump.
You gotta jump.
I gotta go. I won't know if I don't do it.
Right.
So, yep. So we're here.
we're glad to have you. And I have some questions here. I'm going to try to get through a few of them here, but sometimes it's easy to, and guys, I swear where we're getting with all of this is I'm going to figure out why Tara now decides to not only train herself and fight and commit violence upon other people, but why she decided to now start training other people to do the same thing and in a defensive way when need be. So we're going to get to that, but that's coming. All right. So if you're sticking around for that, please stick around. But I want to ask you, so a lot of times we live in the highlights of life, right? You're always proud of what you did. Right. And somebody once told me, in fact, I was just talking to this guy the other day, brilliant person, very well respected in the firearms community. And one of the quotes that he likes to say that he borrowed from somebody is, "It's not what you did, it's what you do," right? And one of the ways that we can kind of figure out what we're going to do is by what we did and reflecting on what we did. And a lot of people like to ask a question like, what was your favorite win, right? But oftentimes in winning, you do learn, but we learn because of our failures, right?
Absolutely.
That's the only way to win. And as Andy Frisella says, one of the guys that I look up to in life, he says, you don't win and lose, you win and or learn, right?
I
So
agree.
don't take losses, take lessons.
I agree with that 100%.
So what I want to ask you is, what was your favorite loss in the world of MMA?
That's a tough one. I've never thought about that. I honestly would have to say probably going back to my amateur days, because I originally started with no coach, no gym, no team, no backing, and it was so I won my first fight and then lost 4 straight. That fourth loss, because I couldn't get off my back. I fought with heart. It was straight heart, hardly any training, And when I went down to the ground, I couldn't get off my back, So after that one went to decision, how I don't know, I was like, I can't do this on my own. Like, if I really love this thing, this new sport that I've found, and I want to be good at it, and don't want to take that damage.
Mm.
I need to find a team. I need to find a gym. I need to find, backing.
Right.
That I honestly think was probably my greatest loss.
Your favorite loss?
My favorite loss, yeah, because I knew I needed something. I knew I needed someone else. I couldn't do it on my own.
That's a big lesson.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
And
now that's my home. That's my family.
That's good, and that's a lesson that everybody learns sooner or later. There are very few people, and in fact, the numbers got to be pretty small because I don't know a single person like this. They can do it all on their own.
No.
Right? I've never met somebody. I'm 30. I'll be 39 next month. I've never met a person in my life that has been capable of doing everything on their own. Yeah. You always need a team.
Absolutely.
Right? And, I always like to say, like, my greatest asset's the woman who walks beside me, my wife, right? Without her, I don't know where the hell I would be.
Right.
I'd probably be successful, but nowhere near as happy and, have the kids that I got and stuff like that, right? So definitely having that team, having that family, that element, that somebody else in your life that's going to help you see the things that you're not seeing, right? And point out your failures.
Right.
Be like, you think you got all this shit figured out? No, you don't.
Right.
Right? Like, come
Right.
on. We're going to help you, right? And that's asking for help, doing that kind of stuff that's a big win for everybody involved. Yeah. And now I think we're going to, I want to ask you this question, all right? So everybody, even me, right? I've got a background in military. I wrestled in high school. I feel like I'm okay with my hands. I'm no MMA fighter. I don't claim to be, right? Like I'm sure like in my day, I thought I was a badass, but now that I've watched a lot of MMA, I know I'm not a badass. Maybe I'd get lucky, right? In fact, Ryan told me I probably should like put a cage up in here or something so that you can't get to me if I say the wrong thing. So I'd probably get my ass kicked.
No. But, I'm a very nice person.
But even now, you know, as because, you know, I do work with Practical Training Professionals, a firearms instruction company here in Southern Maryland. And we always teach people to, you know, train, defend, prevail, right? It's all about that training, where the training starts, and then being able to implement that to defend yourself and not just survive, but prevail in the situation, right? Because as Ryan put it the other day, who was the original Superman that fell off of his horse? Clark Gable, or what was his name?
Yeah, the one paralyzed.
Christopher Reeves, right?
Yeah.
So he survived, but did he prevail? Right? It's a tough, so there is a delineation there between not just surviving. And we say train to survive all the time, but sometimes surviving is just not good enough. So the transition here I'm trying to make is, even I know that I don't have it all figured out. And I should probably be seeking out some kind of self-defense training, you know, some kind of combatives where the gun is the last option. Right. You know, it's an option, but how do I reduce the threat to a level that I can manage without killing somebody in the process?
Right.
And anytime you draw a gun, that's the intent, is shoot to kill, right? Not shoot to wound, it's shoot to kill.
Right.
So, you know, we always push everybody like, hey, seek out some combatives, seek out some self-defense that way, because your first weapon is your mind.
Yes.
Right. Your second weapon is whatever's closest to you. All right. And maybe that's a gun. Maybe it's not. And it doesn't always have to be a fight, right? Maybe you could talk your way out of it. So violence is the last option, but it is an option. Mm-hmm. So you, as you know, coming up until you're 27 years old, had you ever experienced, you know, and obviously don't say some shit that you're uncomfortable saying or whatever, but did you ever experience violence, you know, as a person who wasn't, and maybe not able to defend yourself? And do you think that that is one of the reasons why you chose, you know, to get into combat sports?
I mean, yes, I have. You know, kids are mean. You know, kids are mean. That's one thing that I cannot stand, is the bullying. You know, and in high school, and even before high school, it wasn't as much in my, you know, middle and elementary school days, because I was in a private school, because I grew up in a very, very rough area. I don't know if are you familiar with the PG County area?
A bit, yeah.
So I grew up in a very bad area, but I went to a private school. So I didn't really see it then, but I did see it more so in high school. And it's nasty. You know, this is a nasty world. And that's, you know, kind of why I really wanted to share my, you know, my what I can do and my tactics, you know, with other people, just because I want them to be able to defend themselves. I've seen too much. Has it happened to me personally? No. But I've seen way too much, you know, with kids and women. I don't like it. And they need to learn how to defend themselves.
Absolutely. So as you know, right, fighting is violence, right? When guns are in play, oftentimes there's violence and stuff like that. I'm going to ask a question back to your profession here. Have you ever considered the fact that maybe you might end up killing somebody in the ring? And was that a hard conversation to have with yourself, if you've ever kind of considered that?
I mean, of course, you don't think about that until, like, you're looking at all the paperwork you have to sign, and you're like, man, you really could, you know. And it's true. You really can, if not hurt them severely, you can kill them, you know. I did have to kind of psych myself out with that a little bit. Like, no, you know, everybody knows we're trained, but it's still true. It's not.
It's violence.
It can happen. Yeah.
Yeah, as like Joe Rogan says, right? It's like two buses going full speed at each other. Bam! Right, in that collision, somebody could possibly die. Yeah. Right.
You step in there knowing that you're going against another trained athlete, and it doesn't matter, you know, how and what you've been working. Anything can happen. Mm-hmm. Even if you're fighting somebody, you're like, oh, I got this. No, anything can happen.
Yeah. I mean, and not on the death scene, right? But like Conor McGregor's last fight, everything was going fine, and all of a sudden his leg broke itself. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Like, he didn't anticipate that. Anything can happen. Yep. You know, you can get caught behind the jaw or something like that, and you know, next thing you know,
all it's about, and that's what I've been what I was telling the ladies, it's all about placement. Yeah. Where you hit them. Okay, if you don't feel like you have the strongest punch, that's fine. Where you hit them matters. So.
Yeah. And oftentimes, again, just because I'm a fan, I picked up on some of this stuff. It's not the hit, that hurts, right? Sometimes it's hitting the ground, right? It's like, because you can't control how you're going to land. You just kind of flop, and then there's secondary
double impact.
Yeah, there's like that secondary concussion from smashing your head against the mat or on the ground if you're on the street or something like that. That can do the damage, you know? So
seen that on the opposite side too, on the EMT world too, you know? It's not good, especially on concrete. It's not forgiving like a mat.
I was talking with Matt Watson a week or two ago about kind of his 3 fundamentals for like what a responsible person, what a responsible firearms owner should consider if they choose to carry a gun or if they choose to employ that tool in their everyday life, right? And he said something that was it kind of like hit home with me. It was something I had never really considered as from like a civilian perspective. When I was in the military, I considered this stuff all the time. But as a civilian, as somebody who carries a firearm kind of daily, it wasn't something I'd ever really considered or put a lot of emphasis on. But it's this, right? One of the things that he wishes more people knew before they got into the world of firearms or carrying a firearm is that consequence once you squeeze the trigger. Like, you're willing to go to that. You're safe. You've trained. You've drilled this stuff as much as possible, but nothing that you're ever going to do on the range is going to equal killing somebody.
Right.
And are you capable of living with that afterward? And that's a responsibility there. And I've never interviewed an MMA fighter before. I've talked to fighters. Like I said, my son trains over here in Leonardtown, and I've talked to fighters and stuff, and they, it's kind of like brush off the I might die part of it. You know what I'm saying? Because it's like it's so rare in the world of MMA, but it's a possibility.
True. It is. It can happen. It can. But yeah, you're right. We kind of shy away from that a little bit. Yes, it's there. It is. You just hope and pray for the best,
Yeah. And at the end of the day, you hope it's not you that's dead.
Right.
It's the other guy, right? And you get your hand raised at the end and you feel real good about yourself.
No, I would not feel good.
No, of course
I would not feel good. Yeah, that's I don't know. That's definitely a bridge I'd have to cross if I had to. But that would be a hard pill to swallow. You know? Yeah. Just knowing, it's bad enough. Like when somebody really gets injured, I'll never forget one of my amateur knockouts. I knocked her out with my knee, and it took her, I'll say, every bit of 5 minutes to get up off the canvas, and I felt horrible. Like, not horrible. I just felt bad for her. Like, oh my God, I hope she's okay. I pray she's okay. But she signed up. I'm like, yes!
Pumping, you're just like...
Well, that's what I did. Like, I was like, I walked around the cage, and then I came back, and I'm like, oh, shit, she's still down.
Mm-hmm.
Like, and then was still down and still there, Then I'm like, oh, God, okay. All right. Are you okay?
one of the people in MMA that's not really active anymore is Khabib. I'm going to botch his last name, Nurmagomedov or something. Yeah. Right, Nurmagomedov.
I don't know how to even pronounce
it. Khabib, right? Khabib. Everyone knows him, right? And he's like that silent killer type. Never really talks a lot. Up until recently, nobody ever even won a single round against him. This guy's just a beast. But one of the things that I always liked about watching him fight, and it's like maybe an agreement that you guys all have, or something like an unspoken respect for each other.
It absolutely
that
is.
I'm trying to win, but I would like to win without hurting you as the least amount as possible or whatever, right? There's some fighters who are just in it to blow the other guy's head up. But then there's you can watch like the technical fighters are like, I'm gonna beat you with the fewest moves as possible, because I just want to win, but I'm not in the sport for violence. I'm in the sport for a different reason.
Right. I don't want to hurt, physically, or I'm sorry, harm you long term.
Right.
I don't want anybody to die. Yeah. But I want to win.
Yeah. And you see some guys, right? Like they'll land a shot or something like that, and old boy goes to the ground, and then they're looking at the ref like he's clearly out, and then nothing happens, and they got to get on there and like punch a few more times. It's like, I don't want to keep breaking this guy's head.
Yep. You'll keep looking at the ref like, I don't want to do this anymore.
Yeah. It's crazy. Yeah. But I do sense that kind of respect. And I'm no analyst or anything, but just like I watch football all the time, I'm always kind of watching, not for the big play. I'm looking for, the character of each of the fighters.
Yes.
What are they doing different? What separates them from the other guy that they're up against? Yeah, and that's just kind of my philosophy.
So you're talking about Khabib. His brother actually fights for Bellator, and he Saturday night. It was I believe it was a Saturday, and Khabib was in the corner, and he demolished the dude, and they took him out on a backboard, C collar, everything. And Khabib actually, now mind you, that's his brother that was in, fighting. So he wasn't even worried about his brother. He completely left his brother's side and went and helped carry that guy on the backboard, off the canvas. Like, that shows a lot.
It's love.
That shows a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah. There are really good people out there. I know MMA, people look at MMA fighters like, oh, they're just, violent. They're out to just, no, it's not. That's not how it's a sport.
Evolved. I think it's evolved though. Don't you? So you're old enough to, I'm assuming, based on the age of your children, you're old enough to remember like UFC 1. Maybe you weren't watching it, but the early days with, Chuck Liddell and, Ken Shamrock and all those guys. And even before that, before Dana White got involved, right? Like, there was some guys that were just barroom brawlers that would go out there and fight somebody with a black belt in jiu-jitsu. And it was
no
awesome.
Weight classes, like anything goes, right? Yeah.
I mean, it was purely people out there, and there was a lot of ego. Yeah. And I guess you kind of got to have some ego, right?
Maybe, yeah. I mean, maybe a little bit. Yeah.
Bit.
You have to. I think, that's more for like show, to get your name out there, I think. But yeah, I guess maybe you got to have some kind of confidence.
Okay. We call it confidence. Hey, you're the pro, not me. I don't. But, you go back in time and there's those guys that's just, just acting real cock strong and, all this attitude, this machismo and stuff like that. And then, but it seems like lately, like over maybe, I don't know, because I watch it with my son and he's 17. So, maybe over the past 7 to 8 years, you kind of watch, like, obviously you've seen like the weight classes. There's more weight classes available. Women are, at least on UFC, right? Women are becoming predominantly on the title card or on the main card. Like,
I'm telling you, women, they bring the show. They really do.
They're aggressive as shit too, man. It's crazy.
They come right out.
It's crazy. There's none of that kind of like, kind of walking
feeling
around.
Nope.
It's just like
right
it's coming out. But what I've seen is it's like you're seeing, at least me, I'm seeing a more professional fighter out there. Mm-hmm. Somebody that's really investing in themselves and in their camp. Right. Yes.
You have everything. You're not just going out there like, a kickboxer versus, a jiu-jitsu practitioner. Like, no, they are well-rounded and they're going to tag you on your feet and then they're going to submit you. You're like,
it's cool.
It is. It's come a long way.
That transition is, we're talking about the sport of violence, and some people think that maybe, these MMA folks are just kind of, blowhards or, people with an ego, something to prove. And I'm seeing, by being just a casual observer, it seems as if it's becoming much more accepted. I mean, you're seeing little MMA schools popping up all over the place. Kids are into it. My son.
Sometimes that makes me nervous, though.
Does it?
But yeah, it scares me a little bit because you want your students to really learn and really grow and not get hurt in the process. Mm-hmm. And I've seen a couple of schools, I won't even say locally, but I've seen them pop up. And the instructors, I'm like, this is not a good thing. This is not good. I don't want somebody just Joe Blow just teaching when you don't have any background in anything. That's scary.
I get it.
Scary.
So Joshua, my son, when he trains and stuff like that, like they won't even enter him in any fighting until he's at least 18 years old, right? They want him to get through it, get knowledgeable and all that stuff before he's able to compete.
Right.
And he tells me all the time, he's like, I just want to fight. I just want to punch somebody, something like that. And, it's a teenage thing,
Yes. Yeah.
It's kind of a teenage thing. It was a teenage thing when I was a teenager. Nowadays, it seems, we were talking about this before the episode. It's like a lot of people are into gunning people down nowadays, right? Mm-hmm. Especially you get into the cities. There's no real knuckle dusters, like no scrapping. No. It doesn't seem like it. Like you very rarely, you see a lot more, in the news, in the newspaper and stuff like that, you see a lot more, man drew knife on somebody than you do assault, right? It's like there's
no more like, I'm just going to, walk up to somebody and punch them. I'm going to walk up to them and stab them or shoot them or,
Yeah.
It's scary.
Why
it's
is that,
scary.
do you think? Like, why do you think?
I think it's because people don't know how to fight anymore. They have one thing or it could be, they just don't care. They just don't care. They have no morals.
Or they're scared to get their ass kicked or something like that?
Yeah,
too?
absolutely. Absolutely.
When I was in 6th grade, I was 13 years old. I fought every boy in my class, right? Some of them I lost, some of them I won. But at the end of the day, we were all still friends. Right? It was just something you did.
Yeah.
And even coming up and through high school.
Now they can't do that. Now it's like, that he whipped my boy's ass the other day. Let's jump him. Let's stab him. Let's, no.
And the parents too, right? The parents are, let's be real here. I mean, you got kids, I got kids. I tell my kids like, hey, don't go looking for a fight, right? Just avoid it if you can. And of course, the old adage, right? Like, you better not start a fight, but you better finish it. One of those, I think everybody's parent tells them that, right? But, you just don't hear about it. My kids, my 2 teenagers, they both go over here to Chopticon High School. Mm-hmm. And it's like news breaking if a fight breaks out at school. They're like, oh my God. And I maybe have heard about that 3 times, and I've got a senior and a junior.
Really?
It's like, there's just, hey, you know what? We live in a friendlier society, right? It's just everybody's friendlier.
To an extent.
Because something's got to be happening, right? Like, what is going on? Is it the hormones in the chicken nuggets or something? Like, I don't get it. Everybody's a bunch of pussies or something. Like, where's all the fights at? Like, I'm not encouraging it, and then in football.
But still.
Yeah, what's going on? We're just becoming like a weaker country or something. I don't know. And then like football, they won't let you tackle in practice because somebody might get hurt. And
Are you serious?
Well, how? So you're not training them in practice.
So then when they get popped.
Yeah, so when they get popped in the game, they're not going to know how to react to that. Or when the running back's screening around them, they're not going to know how to engage and pick the right angle to tackle this person. And, and then we wonder why we're losing 40-0, stuff like that. It's like, well, because you guys aren't fucking practicing tackling.
Right.
But, so... All that's to say.
Wow, that's crazy. I didn't know that.
That's crazy.
Horrible.
Yeah, it is. It's
that's
crazy.
Horrible.
It's just this whole, and kids are pulling away from sports in general. I mean, they're, Thomas Stone up the street, up closer to where you live, like they had an all-star baseball team for years, and then over time, people stopped signing up, and then they just got rid of their baseball program. It's just you're just seeing it. Kids are pulling inward. They're not communicating with each other. There's none of that social interaction that we used to get. Everything's done through Snapchat or Instagram. So the only way you're comfortable talking to somebody is through text. Yeah. It's like you have no soft skills, right?
Yep. No people skills at all.
None.
Yep.
And shit, look at last year, right? With COVID, right? Everybody's home. You're missing key parts of your life depending on your age band that you need for development. And now, the masks are coming back. Charles County Public Schools, I got a buddy who works over there. They have to wear masks now. Yep. Over here on the base, every's got to wear a mask. It's like, it's coming back
around. Yep.
It's coming back.
It's horrible.
I
hate it. I hate it.
How did the COVID thing affect the world of MMA for you? Because I saw it on UFC, right? Dana White spent trillions of dollars or whatever it was and made Fight Island and did all that stuff. But for the people to fight kind of on like the local cards and the local circuit, like how did that affect you guys?
Well, luckily through COVID, I was signed with Bellator. But the bad thing is having people weren't able to train. People weren't able to, get in the gyms. Bellator didn't have their COVID process locked down yet, so they were going to. They knew that they had a plan in line, I believe, but it was making it happen. So I just had to stay ready without the gym, without going to the gym. So I have mats in my basement, which is great. However, my fiance had knee surgery, so he wasn't able to train me, which sucked.
Is your fiance a fighter as well?
Retired, yeah. Okay. But he also does hand-to-hand combat. He used to train, what was it, 82nd Airborne? Okay. He trained all the soldiers there. But yeah, so I wasn't able to train like I wanted to. But like I said in the beginning, where there's a will, there's a way, and you have to make it happen, So I did, and finally Bellator, they got their quarantine stuff locked down and I flew out. But yeah, it sucked. It was hard. It was a lot harder than it should have been. And a lot of the local ones here, I don't even think are still up and running yet.
The one that my son trains at, it closed. And I think they tried to reopen it. I'm not sure if they've opened or not. But we did see a Jiu-Jitsu school open up through COVID. They're open now. I forget what the name of it is, but it's over on, if you're familiar with St. Mary's County, Southern Maryland, it's on Route 4, kind of as you're approaching 235 right there by BJ's and Harris Teeter and all that stuff.
Not sure.
So the school back there. But, yeah, it's been hard on everybody.
The school shut down for a while, but I had to have people come over to the house and roll around on the mats. Then we finally opened up, but it had to be small.
So would Bellator? I mean, you know what? I can't ask that question. You'll probably tell me I have to cut it out. But are you aware of any fighters that were holding classes in their basements or anything like that to stay ready?
Probably.
I'm sure people were doing it, right?
I'm sure they were. Yeah. I mean, do I know offhand? No, but I'm sure they were.
So I'd be concerned, at that level that you guys are fighting at, right? There's big money involved in that stuff.
Right.
And, if you compromise yourself, your business, you might lose your business still, right? So there's like that big decision right there. Like, do I follow policy?
Right.
Or do I continue to train the way I know I need to so that I'm ready if I'm called on?
But
they're putting you in a bind there, aren't they?
We were tested time after time. I was so sick of the COVID tests.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot. We were tested so often. So, I mean, never tested positive, thank God, but it was kind of scary, but I knew I had to,
Sure.
You got to train. You got to keep working.
So, last question about MMA, and then I want to ask you some stuff about self-defense. I guess it's two questions, right? What's your least favorite part about what you do? And why are you still fighting?
Least favorite part? I don't know, to be honest with you. I don't know. I mean, I wish there were more hours in the day because, I feel like I'm constantly on the go, but I don't. I like to work hard. I like to push. So it's not that the training, I don't know. I don't think I can answer that.
You're in love with it.
I love it. Yeah. I mean, if I could incorporate more, with the kids, maybe go that route. That other than that, like, I love it.
Very cool. So that probably helps you answer the next question, right? Why do you still do it? Right? Is because you just love it, or?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm going to do it until I can't. My body can't take it anymore. So
that's not in sight anytime soon, is it?
No.
Good
no,
for you.
Of course not.
So when is your next fight? I think, what was your last fight? In April?
Yeah. I don't know yet. I'm pretty sure I'll hear very soon. And unfortunately I can't say anything until they release.
Okay.
So, but yeah.
All right.
I don't think it'll be too much longer.
All right, good for you. Well, you look like you're in very good shape, so you might know something we don't already. So it looks like you're camping already.
No, not yet. Not yet.
All right, so self-defense, you kind of hit on it a little bit earlier. You want to teach other people to defend themselves because why?
Because they need it.
Because they need it.
This world is just crazy. If any child or woman, even men too. Men need it too. If they're approached by somebody, they need to be able to at least have some kind of backing. They can't be like a deer in headlights. Will it always go like you train? No, it won't. But at least you'll have something. At least you'll know something, and you won't just sit there and take it. And I can't stress it enough to people. Like, they've got to find something. Okay, if MMA is not your thing, if violence is not your thing, I get it.
Mm-hmm.
But how are you going to defend yourself if you're presented with a problem?
Right.
And people don't think about that. But the day and age that we're living in, yeah, we were saying, we're not seeing any fights in high school, and stuff like that. But this world is nasty now. Like, all of the riots and the craziness going on. And people are quick to pull a gun, pull a knife, like we were saying before. Defend yourself.
Exactly.
Learn how to defend yourself.
Yeah, it's a toolbox. It's something to put in your toolbox that it's like, shit, it's like a gun, right? It's there if you need it. And at the end of the day, you'd rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. Right. And so Tara, as we mentioned at the beginning of the episode here, you do instruct self-defense here in Southern Maryland. And you are doing some classes for practical training professionals. We have one coming up August 15th and then another September 4th. So that's like the next 2 months people can get out there and get after it. Those
are like kind of your beginners, your basic step, So for anyone that wants to do and think, oh, I just can't, like, I'm not physically fit, or I can't, my body is breaking down. Like I got bad hips, bad knees, bad whatever. This one is for you. This is not something that, we're going to be doing big kicks and flips and, no, this is the beginners. This is the basic stuff that you should at least know. But we are doing like a 6-week, or it's not 6 weeks, it's 6 like sessions on, progressing the tactics and making them a little more difficult and more advanced. But these next 2, these are definitely for the people that are just starting, that just want the basics, that just want a little bit of background.
Sure.
On how to defend themselves.
And this is women's only at this point, right? The ones you're offering for PTP?
This one will be women's only. I'm not sure about September. September, we might open the door for all.
Okay.
For everyone. So, but yes, the one in 2 weeks.
It's 2 weeks. Yeah, it's coming today. The day we're recording this, and of course, this might come out. Of course, this is going to come out after recording because we don't live stream. Yep, today's the 3rd, so that would be 2 weeks. Yeah, just over 2 weeks. Wait, am I mathing wrong? Just under 2 weeks. Yeah, just under 2 weeks.
So yeah, this one is the women's only.
Okay.
And I think that's a good thing. I know a lot of women are a little timid when it comes to learning things, especially when there's, men there, but honestly, with something like this might help you. So I do have my fiance come out and I demonstrate on him. It's fun. I'll let them demonstrate on him too. So nice. They can kick a man's ass. See, you got it.
So we do the women's only handgun classes and different stuff like that. And generally, there's always that one broad who wants to, and of course I'm not victim shaming here, but there's always that one, female in the class that either wants to try too hard to get attention and then there's that one guy who wants to try to show off because there's girls there. Yeah. There's always a little bit of that dynamic. And no matter how hard you try to control it, sometimes you can't. Yeah. And so splitting the class up. So we do offer women's only handgun training as well. And you lose that ego, right? Like a lot of guys show up and they already got something to prove. They're like, oh, I've been shooting since I was, on granddaddy's farm and, sniper and SWAT and military, all this other shit they start throwing out, which there are women who do the same thing, right? But, when you get kind of the women alone, it's like, all right, we don't got to worry about that, the bravado or whatever that comes with the dudes. At least that's what we see. And that's why we offer the women's only classes. Yeah. A lot of times women who have never even touched a handgun before, they don't want to have to sense that pressure. Yeah. Or when we're doing like conceal carry, stuff like that, a lot of women aren't comfortable pulling their shirt up with guys around, right? So there's reasons why we do, women only classes. Why do you do women's only classes?
I think honestly, just to get them to feel comfortable, to be able to get themselves there. Mm-hmm. They're going to need to, to practice on men. Yeah, for sure. But for them to get out the door and get into the, into some kind of self-defense, if that's what it takes, if it's, you only want women, then I'm ready. I'm down for that. I do jiu-jitsu. So that's one of my like main martial arts. And I hear it all the time, like, oh, I don't, it's a little uncomfortable rolling around with men. And I mean, I guess at first, that kind of goes through your head. Yeah. But once you're doing it, like you don't think about it. So just like that, start women to women, just until you get comfortable. And then when some people don't want to move on, but if you're ready to move on, then go ahead, test on men, whatever, whoever. But to get them out there, I think it's for some women, it's easier when it's only women. And we're hands-on. Some people don't want,
right.
It's a man. I don't want his hands on me.
And some people have experienced some kind of violence in the past, right? And that is just going to trigger some PTSD for them or something like that also.
Right. Yep. So it's easier to get them out when it's only women.
Good. So. I'm glad you offer that. And I'm glad you're offering that to the PTP community as well. So we're certainly pushing that out. Guys, if you haven't already signed up for it, ladies at this point, head over to PTPGun.com. You can subscribe for the class there. I don't even know if your class is booked full yet. And I think there was like 3 or 4 spots left available last I checked. Yeah, I'm not sure. I need to check before we start plugging it. But it'll probably be booked up. But sign up for the September 4th class because that, we still got some time on that one.
Yes.
Last question I want to hit you with here, Tara, regarding this is who is your favorite student? And not by name, right? But like what characteristics does your favorite student have?
Drive, and they listen. There's a lot of times the students are like, oh, I can't do that. Stop, listen to me. Just listen. This is all you need to do. Don't already say you can't. You already have that in your head because then you won't.
Mm-hmm.
So one that listens and tries, they have that drive that's going to push them to do the uncomfortable, something that they're not comfortable doing. Those are my people.
Nice.
Yeah. I like to see a hard worker. Yeah.
So one of the philosophies that I've heard used in the past with just any kind of training really, and a way to kind of break down people's bravado when they come up is this philosophy called pour out your cup. You ever heard that before? It's it's a Chinese philosophy. And essentially what it is I've heard you say in the past on other things, other media that you've been on that I've kind of checked out, that you had an advantage coming into the sport of MMA at the age that you came in because you were a clean slate, right? You didn't have this background in combat sports. You didn't have this in your life, right? You were like, I'm here and I don't have any bad habits, right? So teach me.
Right.
So what pouring out your cup, that philosophy is, you need to come open. Like you need to be empty. Yep. Right. So that I could fill your cup with the good stuff.
Exactly.
Right. So whatever you've learned in the past, anything like that, right? Either drink it and absorb it and use it to build on, or pour that shit out and come in with an empty cup. Right. So that's like my favorite kind of student.
Yeah.
Is somebody that, cause you get those people that were, shooting 22 long rifles with their grandpa, plinking cans off the fence post or something like that think they got it all figured out, right? And then they come to training and you're trying to break it down by the numbers and they're skipping a step or they're doing something. It's like, buddy, pour that shit out. All right. We're starting over. Right. So that's kind of my kind of favorite kind of student one, right? It's one that's willing to learn something new that doesn't think they have it all figured out yet.
Right.
Because then you could build on that. Right. And that and the person who has no idea what they're doing, those are the two people that you could build something out of.
Right.
Right. It's the people that kind of already have the swagger.
Open-minded ones.
Yes.
Willing to do whatever.
Yeah.
For sure.
So that's kind of my kind of favorite students. So, well, Tara, thank you so much for coming on the show. I wish you success in the world of MMA. I'm a fan now, so I'll be watching you. I've watched probably more fights of yours today in the past hour than I have in a very long time. Then I watch other people's MMA. Right? I was like, who is this chick, right? Because I've seen you before. I've read your blog articles. Like I've watched some videos. I've talked with Ryan. I've talked with some of the students who have attended your classes up in Waldorf in the past. And like I felt like I know you. And I was like, I have never even like watched Tara throw a punch before. So I need to know what I'm in danger of before you come into the studio. Because I got to put my guard up or something. I don't know. But anyways, thank you so much for coming on the show. We appreciate you.
Thanks for having me.
Where can people find Tara Graff? Where can they find anything about you on social media or anything else like
Yeah,
that?
social media. So I do have Instagram. I think it's the Tiny Terror Tara, or Tara the Tiny Terror Graf, I think. I'm not sure what the handle is, but
Okay.
if you look up the Tiny Terror, it pops up. So, and you'll know it's me. I have my Bellator glove out there.
Nice.
And then on Facebook, I do have a Facebook as well. So.
Okay. Well, we hope to talk to you again soon, and we look forward to your training August 14th and September 4th, and then more to follow.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.